It's the last Friday of the month. It's pay slip day. And you know exactly what you're expecting to receive in your bank account as your salary or your wage for the month or week. You open yours with a quiet confidence of someone that knows, okay, this is exactly what I am receiving, or the notification pops up in your phone. And then you see one line item. You have done the calculation in your head, you know the number, you know exactly what's expected to come into your account for the month. Did somebody else send you money? But you see your company name at the top, payment received from XYZ company. And then you begin to wonder, okay, why am I receiving less? Is this allowance, or is this payment for an extra job, or is the company generous this month and my salary hasn't come in? And then you open your email and you see one line item that says miscellaneous deduction. You go to your HR. HR says you should go to manager. You go to manager. Your manager says you should speak to finance. And you go to finance. Finance says it was an administrative adjustment. And you're beginning to wonder what administrative adjustment, and no one can seem to give you an explanation for what that administrative adjustment is. Welcome to the salary deduction week. Yes, it's almost payday. We're getting very, very close to payday. And that's why we're talking about salary deductions. Today, we are naming every single event that has to do with your salary deductions. Salary deductions in workplaces exist on a spectrum. Yeah. At one end, they are legitimate, legal, transparent deductions that you agreed to. So, say they are pension deductions, tax, health insurance, loan repayments. These are things that you agreed to and you signed up for. But on the other end, there are deductions that are unexplained, unauthorized. They are petty and outrightly illegal. These deductions are used as discipline. So they are used as disciplinary measures for people that fall short of some policies, or have some actions that the management is not very excited about. Sometimes there are deductions for things that are not the employee's fault. These kind of deductions, they appear once and they are never explained. And the next month they vanish as though they were never there. When you see deductions like this that are not recurrent or consistent, it makes you raise a brow to wonder, okay, are these kind of deductions legal? Today we're talking about the second part of the spectrum. And we're not going to be reserved about it. Because here's the truth about your salary. It is money that you have earned. It is money you have worked for. It is money that is due you as agreed in your contract. So there are several events that can lead to this kind of illegal deductions. And I want to name them based on events or scenarios that happen. So the first I'm going to name is the breakage penalty. So this breakage penalty is where, as an employee, you broke something or you were near something that broke it. The fact that you were within that vicinity or that environment makes you the person that broke it. And the company is like, okay, because you broke this thing, you're going to pay for it. And what best way to get this payment back from you than from your salary? This is one of the most petty, very, very petty deductions made from the salaries of employees. An employer cannot deduct from an employee's salary except it is in a written agreement or contract that was signed, that if there are any damages applied to your work equipment or your work environment, the cost of these damages will have to be applied to your payroll, except there is that agreement in your contract that you signed up for. If you didn't, then it is not a legal deduction. It's not something that should happen. And I would say this carefully. In cases like this where life happens, and mistakes are made in organizations, the best thing to do is to allow people have humanity in your workplace. So when damages or situations like this come up, it is important for organizations to make room for people to be humans. And the best thing to do is have a conversation with the individual if it was something that was really detrimental to the organization, something quite expensive that employee or individual broke. Have a conversation with the person and say, this costs a lot and we're not excited about it and we want you to be more careful about this. It shouldn't repeat itself again. is if your workplace is an environment where there are fragile things, then put it in your agreement, dear employer. Put it in your agreement and say, as a staff, you're working here, if there are any damage caused to any equipment or item for sale, it will be taken out of your payroll. So that when employees come and there are damages that happen, they know that they signed this agreement and it doesn't come off as you as an employer being petty or being immature. Yeah, and then you have employees having side talks and carrying faces in your organization. Yeah. So put it in writing, put it in your agreement, and let them sign up for it if that is what you want to do. The next event I'm going to talk about is the lateness tax. So as an employee, you're late, you're late. You know you shouldn't go to work late, but some mornings life happens. Some days you drag out of the bed. Other days traffic decided to be after your life. Or one driver's car decided to park up in the middle of the road. And that was the day you woke up late. You've already speculated that in 10 minutes you're going to be at the office. But that day was the day you were on the road for 45 minutes and you're late. And then now there's a lineup on your pay slip, a deduction for lateness. Why? Because that particular lateness cost your company or your employer some money. Probably lost some money for that particular event and they were so hurt. Just something peculiar. And you see that lineup deduction in your payroll. I also want to be clear that the deductions for lateness in certain organizations are sharp and they are clear because some companies have it in their agreement that if you come late to work, you're going to be fined for it. So this is very peculiar. I'm talking about organizations that do not have this in the agreement. And I want to be very clear to say that punctuality is important. I'm not saying that you should make excuse every single day and say life happened. You need to be disciplined as an employee. Wake up early and be punctual. Be known for punctuality. So if you are someone that is usually early to work, yeah, and something happens one off and your employer decides that they want to deduct it from your salary, then you can raise a brow and say, but I've always been early. But if you're someone that is known for coming late to work and your employers have had it up to their neck and they are thinking, what better way can we help you be disciplined as an employee is to deduct your salary. So I'm saying that if you are punctual all the time, then employers will not, just want to deduct your salary. But if it's a habit, then it may be a means of discipline. But then, dear employers, if you want to imbibe such disciplinary measures in your organizations, put it in your employees' agreement so that they know that if you are late for so number of times, their salaries are going to be deducted. Very important. Let everything be in writing. The third event is the phantom deduction. This deduction has no description. It has no explanation. It could mean anything as adjustments or miscellaneous. It could even come up as administrative fee. These are not categories. These are more like hiding places where people's money are just deducted for no good reason. And a pay slip item that cannot be explained to the employee that it affects is not just bad HR practice. It is a red flag that something is being taken without proper authorization. That is very wrong. The next kind of deduction is the uniform or equipment deduction. This is where organizations will say we are deducting the cost of your uniform from your first salary, or the laptop has to be paid back over a couple of months. Sometimes these are legitimate agreements. They are documented, they are signed, they are agreed to before employment begins. But where this is wrong is when the employees are not pre-informed about such kind of deductions. If equipment costs are going to be deducted, then it's important to say that upfront during the interview. The next is disciplinary deduction. This particular one, I feel, if you want to whoop a child, don't take away the child's candy. Yeah. This disciplinary deduction is something that happens where you speak to a colleague where you speak to a colleague in a certain way, or you spoke to your manager in a rude way, and they're thinking of the best way to discipline that employee, and you feel the best way to deduct from their salaries. I would say no. Rather, address this from the roots. Yeah, call for a meeting, or remind your employees of the values that you hold as an organization. And if you feel anybody that falls short of these values should be penalized, then put it in your agreements to say, we give you so number of months to, is to inculcate the values that we hold as an organization. And if certain staffs after a period of time are still falling short of these values that you hold, being violent, aggressive, rude in your office, and you feel the best way to penalize them is to monetize it, then put it in your agreement, which personally I think it's wrong. Because if you want to train people, help people to develop the right values, you don't take away what is important to them. Instead, you train, you teach. Sometimes it just takes sitting down that employee and finding out, oh, okay, how do you think you can do better at this value? What caused this misunderstanding? Why do you think you should have responded in such a way? What triggered you? Conversations like this help you find out the root cause of why employees default when it comes to, certain behaviors or upholding certain values in your organization. Then you can find better disciplinary measures. An example I would want to give is in my organization. If there are employees that are falling short of the standard that we hold in our workplace, what we do is during your performance review, we talk to you about it. If there's no improvement, we put you on a performance improvement plan. It's more like going back to probation. Trust me, they will sit up. Yeah. So if you need your staff to improve and be better, there are certain ways you can help them improve and not monetize everything. So if most of these deductions are illegal, why do they keep happening? If employees have rights, if HR exists, why are these deductions happening and appearing on people's payslips? Number one, employees do not know their rights. And organizations that behave this way, that just make random deductions, are counting on the fact that employees do not actually know their rights. An average employee receives a payslip, sees a deduction, feels vaguely wrong about it, but rather than risk being confrontational or risk being difficult, they just swallow the loss and accept it and move on. The second reason why this keeps happening is because the power difference is real. So as an employee, you need the job. As an employer, you feel you're doing the employee the favor by offering them a job. And in work environments that are not very healthy, where employees cannot express themselves comfortably or go to HR and talk about something that they feel uncomfortable about, things like this keep happening and they are overlooked. The third reason is because HR has opted for it. And I want to be very careful here because in most organizations, HRs are genuinely trying to do the right thing. But in organizations where HR report directly to management, the HR is not a neutral party. The HR in this case will just be an arm of the management. And in those environments, the HR department will most times process payroll deductions. The HR department sometimes will process these payroll deductions even though they know are shaky because failure to do so has its own professional consequences. Let me give you something that you can actually use because knowing this is wrong is one thing, but knowing exactly what to do is better. First thing is read every payslip, every single one. Don't just read your net pay or your gross pay. Read every single phrase, every single paragraph in your payslip. Understand what time you're meant to resume. Understand your job descriptions. Understand the clauses and the consequences and certain, areas that seem gray. When you read and understand what your agreement is or what your payslip is all about, if you have questions, they're important to clarify those questions with management. If there is something you do not agree to or something you do not understand, take note of it and take it to management. Second thing is ask in writing. Send an email. Most of the times, the word of mouth doesn't save you. Because if anything were to happen in any organization and you needed to take it up, they will ask you, okay, where is your evidence? Did you put it in writing? Did you talk about it? Did you say something? Always put everything that you have to report to management, put it in an email, in a document, and share it. And when doing this, be as plain and as polite as possible and let them know that you're just seeking clarity, yeah, about certain things that you do not understand. Third thing is know your country's legal labor rights. So every country has their labor laws, and it's important as an employee to know what you have a right to. Next thing I want to do is to talk to the people that have the power to stop this: HR professionals, finance managers, and the leadership that signs off on payroll. I want to make the dignity arguments before the legal one. When you take money from someone's salary without explanation, without a proper process, you are sending them a message. The message is your understanding of the deduction doesn't matter, your consent doesn't matter, your dignity in this employment relationship doesn't matter. You will receive what we pay you and you will be grateful. This message travels, and the employee who experiences this tells everyone that cares to hear around them. They tell their spouse, tell their friends, tell their whoever, and they carry it in how they show up the next morning. The morning after that, they carry it into their deliverables, they carry it into their productivity, they carry it into the task assigned to them. And then the legal argument: an employee who documents unexplained deductions and takes it to the legal authorities about the deductions that your organization is making puts your firm, puts your organization on a pedestal that doesn't make you comfortable. I really wish that organizations can build healthy work environments. And if organizations build healthy work environments, they have employees that are willing to grow that brand. And one way to build healthy work environments is to have an environment where people can walk up to management, walk up to HR and say things that they are not very excited or comfortable about. To wrap this up, employees, your salary is not a number that gets adjusted based on how management feels in a certain month. It is an agreement, it is a contract. It is a number that was arrived at through negotiation and documented in writing. And every single deduction from that number, beyond what is legally mandated and mutually agreed, requires your consent. Is yours, it belongs to you, you've earned it. Not a broken printer cartridge, no matter how beloved it is, changes that. Before I let you go check on your payslip, subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it with someone, share it with your manager, share it with your HR, or share it with a friend of yours that owns a business that you think would benefit from this context, or share it with a fellow employee that has complained to you about certain deductions that have been made from their salaries, and help them know how to manage this better. And I will see you next week. Next week, we're going fully into management. I believe every organization can do better, especially in African workplaces. I believe companies can grow if they're doing the right things. And I believe as employees, you are so much more than just another number in the office. And the more you do, the better you are. And remember to check your payslip. I would also love to see your comments this week. What was the most ridiculous or absurd description that was given to a deduction in your payslip? Remember to keep it anonymous. I'm not asking for receipts. And I will see you next week as we dive deeper into things that define how we speak, think, and show up in our organizations and as employees. Bye.